Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
The following podcast is brought to you exclusively by the Rad Rob Radio Network.
Welcome to Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. This podcast is hard-hitting, in-depth, cutting-edge look into the sport of bowling. You will get unfettered access into the mind of one of the most gifted bowlers of this generation, who just happens to be the son of a living legend. So, without further ado, let's introduce you to the host of the show, Rad Rob Francois, Dr. Ocho, and the incomparable Johnny Petraglia Jr.
Hey guys, welcome back to Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. I am your host, Rad Rob Francois. It is episode number 36. As always, I'm joined by Dr. Ocho. What's going on, Ocho?
Your life is spinning out of control. Your life is spinning out of control.
Seems the whole world is out to get you.
Sprite, you're yelling at me for not giving you a 2.5 minute intro.
Everything seems wrong and nothing seems right.
'Cause you tried, but you can't let go.
It's when you're down that you gotta get up. Don't let them walk all over your face. Stand up for yourself and make everything right again.
Yeah.
Even if your best friend turned his back on you and your girlfriend thinks you suck.
Maybe he was planning that all night, which is why he didn't need to fuck with you to start the show.
That's fair.
I don't know.
That's fair.
We're unfettered, so we never fettered that one.
That's true. That's true. I mean, I just got tired of singing your praises. That's all.
How? How's
That's
that possible?
warranted. I mean, you do kind of like, you know.
But how is that possible?
Give him shit at the opening and the close of every episode we've ever done. So
yeah, Rob, you give me shit at the
I'm
opening and the
talking to
closing
you.
of every episode.
not him. You.
What?
I'm talking to you. I'm talking
go
to
back.
the big friggin' red wiffle bat.
Yeah, you could see that from here, huh? Yeah.
That's what she said.
Nice peaks. I know I mention him every week, but nice peaks.
We're also joined by Johnny Petraglia Jr., the man with a name on the marquee. What's going on, brother?
I am, contrary to normal Wednesday nights, I'm actually feeling fantastic. I got a lot to dive into about, what's been going on over the last 72 hours with me. Bowled a tournament in the Poconos. Bowled subbed in league for the second time of my 3 stints bowling in Tom's River last night. Subbing with good old Mike Valenzano from the Bone and Zano Zone tomorrow night at Shore. And I got a nice 8-game tournament with a $2,000 top prize this Sunday. I'm in bowling mode right now, dude.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And you blew my mind off air, so set that one up, Rob. I want to get into that right now.
Yes, please do.
Literally right now?
Yes. Why? What do you got?
Well, at least set it up, right? At least like what we were discussing. Even though it's an older topic, that's something that's been it's pretty much known throughout the bowling world.
Is a little out of the loop here because he's he does bowl on the big red wiffle bat pattern and is badass only on the big red wiffle bat pattern. He hates it, but he talks in third person, and that's what he knows, and that's all he knows. So let's get into a facet that just blew Dr. Ocho's mind, and I took organic chemistry, so it's difficult to blow this mind.
All right, so what happened was we were talking off air, and I asked Johnny, or I mentioned to Johnny that his father looked good. Training today. I saw him take a shot on Facebook. Not a shot of, alcohol.
He did a tequila and a bench press. That's the workout they do, man. They know this shit.
And I asked Johnny if...
Not me, because we haven't gotten to that point yet.
True.
This is day 3, my friend.
Wow.
We were talking... Yeah, keep going.
Okay, so Johnny's dad, Johnny Sr., obviously PBA Hall of Famer, greatest bowler in the world, wears a wrist guard. And I
was experimenting. Sorry.
He's experimenting.
I had to cut you off. He brought 4 different ones today to experiment with. Keep going.
I gotcha. Okay. I'm a big proponent of that, by the way, because I can't cut my wrist. So my wrist is always breaking. So I always have to wear one. But anyway, so I asked Johnny if his dad is allowed to wear that on the PBA Senior Tour, the PBA 50. And he said yes, which sparked a discussion about not being able to use it on the PBA Tour. And Ocho was not aware of that. So,
unbeknownst to me.
Yeah, I had no clue, even though we've probably mentioned it 15 times on the show already.
No, it's not. It hasn't been meant. No, it hasn't. And the reason was, we always talk mechanics of that I'm fascinated with because, again, mechanically, I'm an anatomy guy. And JP Jr. had told us about the new release, the open hips and the yo-yo style. And I just figured that's why people weren't wearing a brace anymore, because if you got a brace, you can't, like you said, break your wrist is what Rob would say, right? Is that the term where it almost flattens?
Well, what you just said, you're actually correct. Like the new age game, you can't use those gloves.
Right.
You're 100% right.
Break because you're flicking so much, and those wrist brace keep you so stable that you don't have that snap.
Yeah, even the ones that I'm sorry, even the ones that allow you to go back, they inhibit your fingers because they're long. So even if you try,
cover your fingers at the time too. So so picture like a catcher's glove with a brick behind it, basically.
Yeah.
And that's what he's talking about. So, and I've seen this on bowling on the television. I guess not recently, but I don't know how recent I even go because I'm a little out of the loop. So that just kind of threw me because I really thought I probably saw it recently. Clearly I didn't. And obviously with these higher rev guys, the two-hand, the Belmonte, obviously I understand that, the higher rev is the guys that get on the television. But see, even that dog didn't know that we freaking had no wrist braces.
Had no clue.
Chewy.
No.
It's the same people you say hi to every day, Chew.
So
my sister's dog is going to miss this house, dude.
That really
he has so many people to talk to that walk by with this creek. Sorry, keep going.
No, it threw me because, it's got to be, 8 weeks ago-ish, we talked about, you, JP, talked about guys that, had a quick run, and you had related it to bowling balls more than anything, or maybe like, maybe patterns a little bit, but it was when a pattern wrapped up to a guy's style, he'd win. And then you mentioned Mike Scroggins, who had like a 6-year run, I think, maybe 8-year run. And we never heard of him way before. We never heard of him way after. But I remember that dude had that giant freaking RoboCop arm on his freaking gimmick, and he threw the ball, and he threw it the same way every time, hand the same way every time, got around the ball a little bit because he had nothing else to do. But I just figured, okay, he wasn't as good as he was. I didn't know that they took his gimmick away and he couldn't play the lanes the way an athlete might be able to. So,
well, I'm giving a dig too. I'm being a dick. We're barking up a different tree when it comes to that because Mike Scroggins used the robo arm his entire career. Mike Scroggins' game changed over the years because he was allowed to do what he preferred to do. And that was play the lanes from left to right. Like, in other words, for right
straight
hander,
up five
right to
for
left.
the lefty, basically. Straight up
with no bump, with no angle whatsoever. So in the early days of sport bowling, what happened was on the left side of the lane, because they were new to laying out these patterns, there wasn't enough traffic on the left side of the lane to break them down. All the high rev lefties, or the athletic lefties, as I like to call them, guys like Mike Albee, Ricky Ward, Parker Bone, Jason Couch, guys along those lines in the early 2000s were no longer allowed to use the yo-yo release. By the way, is my sound still good, guys? Because I adjusted my computer.
Yes,
okay. You're fine.
They were no longer allowed to do that in the early days of sport bowling. So once the patterns were introduced, or at least the patterns, and like we call it sport, but with all due respect, throughout the entire course of the PBA Tour, the lanes have always been oiled. Well, since Lenny Nicholson and the PBA Lane Man was introduced, they make them harder, right? But when they introduced sport patterns initially, the best lefties in the world all of a sudden were Chris Hayden, Rick Lawrence, Mike Scroggins, Peter Hernandez, or whatever his name is.
JP,
And
real quick, I got to ask a question about verbiage, only because you said they weren't allowed to use the yo-yo release. What you mean is that release wouldn't work on these patterns? Is that what you're saying? It's not like they were omitted from it. So they would use what they taught, because I got to figure before they knew how to oil them properly, they probably oiled them symmetrically, and then the lefties had to blast through this ton of oil and could never get their ball to face up or follow through or something. And they're
right. In other words,
slot nonstop. And
yeah, a lefty could never migrate too far right because of the amount of righties that migrated left. When you add that into the fact that there isn't enough left-handed traffic to create hold down lane after, say, a game and a half. Exactly. It left you one out, and the out was to have no hand or as dead in your hand as much as you could and play the lane front to back with zero right to left motion, like keep it in front of
basically.
you. Head
hunting.
Right. So it brought about this entire new short-term lefties, and then there was one lefty that nobody really knew on the PBA tour, that once the sport patterns were introduced, this was the one exception to the rule, because he predominantly threw it similar to the straighter lefties that I just mentioned, rather than the guys like a Bone and a Couch and an Albee and a Ricky Ward, and that was Patrick Allen. Patrick Allen not only had a trick release where he could figure out a way to almost get his fingers and thumb out of the ball at the same time, but Patrick was also a shot maker, and Patrick was always ahead of the curve. Like, anybody that knows Patrick Allen, go back and watch Patrick when he made the show at the Masters, or he made the show at the Beaumont Doubles in 1992. He used to strap on it at the bottom. And over time, Patrick realized, not only am I accurate, but now I can figure out a way to manipulate my hand to throw it a little bit straighter, like these guys that are winning now are doing. He's the only exception to that rule. And then what happened from there was that went away, and all of a sudden we don't see Chris Hayden, we don't see Robert or Rick Lawrence, we don't see guys like that. Now all of a sudden we see guys like Rhino Page, and all of a sudden after a 4-year drought, after winning over $100,000 for 12 consecutive years, I'm talking about Parker Bone. Parker wins in Spartanburg. And then now we meet Billy Oatman, and now we meet all these other lefties who kind of hook it again and are a little bit more aggressive.
Your buddy Simonelli used to
Ryan Simonelli, prime example.
Like, exactly. That's the guy I would think of.
So like that's what has happened.
You blew my mind, man. And I'm dumbfounded that we never talked the wrist brace. We talked everything but, and you talked even the same people. It just never came down to the actual, maybe the catalyst or the common denominator almost. I know that they all didn't have wrist braces, but whatever it did, it made him throw the ball the same way. And that's where I just got stumped, because I never paid attention. You blew my mind, and we were actually talking off air, and I was like, nah, screw it. I want somewhat of a reaction, because I'm sure there's more to be had.
Rob, let me ask you, because the whole point, the whole reason we brought this entire topic up was not like why all of a sudden Mike Scroggins was good, because it wasn't because of the wrist brace. He's been wearing a wrist brace since like before he became one of the PBA greats in like 2004 moving forward. He had one PBA title, the 92 ARC Sacramento Open, and he was wearing a wrist brace. So he's always worn a wrist brace, right? The reason this entire conversation came up, and the reason we brought it up to begin with, was because the Oach wasn't aware that the senior players and the ladies, the senior players are allowed to wear a wrist brace, the ladies are allowed to wear a wrist brace. The PBA Tour guys are not. However, on that same accord or same subject, a senior player, if he so chooses, let's say Chris Barnes, who's 50, let's say he goes and bowls the World Championship, and he's been wearing a wrist brace on the Senior Tour. He is not allowed to wear the wrist brace on the PBA Tour event. The same thing for somebody like Liz Johnson, who's made 2 shows, and Kelly Kulick. But I'm using Liz particularly for the lady, because Liz has always worn a glove. She's not allowed to wear that glove on the men's tour. Meanwhile, she broke records that will either be replicated or succeeded. I don't know, but she owns records on the PBA tour using her glove. With all the, I want to know from your perspective, like what do you feel about this? Like, how do you feel about this topic? Because it's, I want to know.
Well, I mean, like everything in bowling nowadays, you can't get everybody on the same page. You know, the USBC has there's certain rules that affect only them. The PBA has their own rules. You know, it's almost like college basketball or college football and the pros. Like, for whatever reason, they don't all have the same set of rules. You would think when you're transitioning from amateur bowling up to the pros or whatever that, you know, things would be uniform. But even in college sports, you don't see that. I guess the only way I can put it is if you are a pro, you are that good, and you probably don't need a crutch like that because you are the best of the best, right? So I think I get it for that point, but, you know, for me as a league bowler, you know, probably a lifetime 195, 200 average, I need that. I need that support because I don't have the ability to do what some other people do to, you know, to crank the ball. The only way I can get any hook on the ball is to keep my hand cupped and you know, be able to turn over on the ball. So
what's the actual rule? Because, I mean, Pete wears a glove, which obviously doesn't give any support. It doesn't lend itself to any support. What's the actual rule? You can't have additional support. Can it not be a Velcro? Can it not be a brace? Like, what is the rule?
I don't really know. I'm pretty sure it's a brace. But, like, I haven't seen anybody wear, say, like a neoprene wrist support. I haven't seen somebody wear... Like, I'm pretty sure it's braces that allow your wrist to be manipulated.
Right.
So however...
As long as, like, it could be a glove that you can, and there's no hinge. Maybe it's a hinge, actually. Maybe
my guess would be it would be something that contains metal on the back of your wrist.
Because they got that one where you could take the metal out or something, and it's just a glove, and it's got the little fun little grip on the palm, and that's it. But
that was one of my arguments, was because back in the heydays of bowling, the guys like my dad. If you guys go back and watch my dad's 1994 300,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
He's wearing a blue Master wrister, and he took the metal out of it. It didn't do shit for him. He wore it for the incentive money to try and help sell the product. Which pro shops stock up on these fucking gloves.
Walter Ray used to do that. Yeah,
that thing
it just goes through your thumb.
Everybody had that in league, like growing up in the 80s and 90s.
Right. That's that. My dad wore that for the incentive money on the show that he bowled 300 on, along with his Super Touch, which is the silver thing laying on his index finger. So that was one thing that always bothered me. Like, you guys are doing all this hooting and hollering about two-handed bowlers and this and that and yada, yada, yada. And you're talking about how the game's unfair, but now you're trying to eliminate something that people have used since the game's inception. That really makes no sense.
Right. Not the only advantage, but that was their advantage that made them win.
Yeah,
and now
their advantage was now I can make a ball curve when I didn't know how to. Okay, fine.
And two-handers said, well, I don't need a wrist brace. I'll use my other hand. And then and now they're allowed to do that, and which I'm not against. It's just that don't take the other away and make it harder for the guy now.
This is the one.
That's the thing I was talking about. There's like I think there's like a big sheet of metal that just goes right up the back of it.
There is. Yeah. That's the one that I use.
As long as the metal's not in it. I mean, and is there a freaking a freaking chaperone walking up and down checking?
That visual that you just put up is a prime example, because when I was in the shop, that
for those of you listening and not watching it.
Sorry, go ahead, Rob.
For those of you that are listening, because it's an audio podcast, I'm putting pictures on the screen of wrist braces, but
we're not doing a good job.
No,
the wrist brace that Red Rob just put up is the Master Wrister, where you have the Velcro neoprene support around the wrist, you have the metal brace on the back. When I was in my stores, Storm put out a very similar product, exact same glove, and they called it the Storm Extra Grip. The Extra Grip was just the glove. It had a Velcro strap that went around your wrist. It had the Spider-Tex Cabretta tackiness on the front, and it had the spandexy material on the back. The Extra Grip Plus was the wrister that was just shown on our screen, where you have the neoprene support, you have the same Spider-Tex on the front, The index finger and the pinky are covered, but this time you have a piece of metal on the back of your wrist. So I would be curious to find out if I'm not only allowed to not use the extra grip, but can I not use the extra grip plus? Like what goes back to you guys.
Well,
like that was.
I was gonna say, didn't Ocho say that PDW still uses some kind of a glove, right?
He just cuts out a golf glove and
he cuts out the thumb on a golf glove.
Okay, that's what it is. I gotcha. Okay, I'm trying to find pictures of the old PW, the Perfect Wrist, and I literally can't find anything on Google. It's so
is
funny.
that what it was? I thought it was the Power Wrister. It was called the Perfect Wrist.
It's called the Perfect Wrist. Yeah, it was usually black with like the white PW on the back of it.
Just go to the 1991 JP Open to the semifinal match and look at Charlie Tapp's wrist.
Jesus Christ. Okay. The fact that you remember that is a little bit ridiculous, but
well, he's one of our biggest fans, and
yes,
he always supported the PW.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what I always had growing up. Either had the PW or I had the Wristmaster, which is like the most basic wrist brace there is. And you've seen like ones that go up like your whole entire fucking arm, like almost like what your dad was using.
You got like RoboCop, man. Like and you're gonna shoot friggin' bullets if you leave a 10 pin or something. Like I'm okay with that too, I guess.
But so does the PBA consider that a competitive advantage? I guess.
I keep saying PBA. I'm not sure if it's the PBA.
USBC, maybe?
I feel like it might be like USBC events. You can't use it, but
okay.
I feel like this entire show may be a little bit balderdash.
Yeah, because if anyone's going to be a dickhead, it's going to be USBC.
I'm not going to pull up the information. This is old news. This wasn't even supposed to be the main topic.
Sure.
But the fact that it's been eliminated anywhere, the fact that you're taking it away from players that have used it to build careers for over 20 years, and I'm talking about Mike Scroggins and Liz Johnson, because I know that Mike Scroggins can't bowl the USBC Masters with his power paw anymore. I know that Liz Johnson can't go bowl the Masters, the men's Masters, and wear her Storm metal wrist brace. I know that she can't do it anymore. And I just think it's shitty to remove an item that's been consistently recognized as eligible for play, whereas we're trying to make all these rules about two-handers and all this other shit. So.
Okay, breaking news. I have an update on that. I pulled up the info. I have a video.
Thank God.
I'll play real quick.
From 2007. Breaking news.
Hold on, let me share my screen here. Share screen.
Share it with all the people watching.
Yes. Well, I mean, you'll be able to hear it, fuckface. There we go.
It's not professional, Rob.
Sorry, Mr. Fuckface.
God, who the fuck is that?
That's Thomas Larson, man. He's a member of the Snickers Waco Wonders, coached by my dad. Let's go.
Everybody knows that, dude. What the fuck?
Right. Yeah, no, yeah, it's a sport. Okay. Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Christ, it's a fucking skill.
Okay, so I was right. Okay, so now we know it's confirmed.
It is confirmed.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not Balderdash. We're right on point.
Right on point. But fuck the USBC anyway, right?
Yeah, always fuck them. They're the fucking
They're just
worst.
assholes anyway. And I don't even know who they are.
Speaking of which, I did want to talk about that. PBA just recently announced that they're going to have their own sanctioned leagues. So if you don't want to bowl USBC and your local bowling center supports PBA leagues, you can become a PBA league member.
Sign me up.
So that's a big deal, right? I mean, that could essentially close out the USBC if they can get enough centers to sign up for it.
Yeah, I wish they had some stock. I'd buy now.
No shit, right?
Or do they? Maybe I should search that one.
Oh, Joe, look it up. So, but I mean, that's a big deal, right? I mean, I think they've heard the voices of all of us, right? Like, we're fucking tired of the USBC. When it comes to what's the joint event that they had when this whole bowling ball controversy was going on this year?
The one where the
Masters.
tournament
The Masters,
style, yeah.
right. So, I mean, they're probably tired of dealing with the USBC themselves. So it's a smart move on their behalf to create their own league sanctioning.
I mean, it took him, Christ, how many years just to recognize the Masters as a PBA major, which has been one of my dad's biggest issues throughout his career. Like in my dad's heyday, the pinnacle of bowling was the Triple Crown. There was no such thing as a Grand Slam. Right. There was no such thing as a retroactive major like the Players' Championship. There was the Touring Players' Championship, which was not recognized as a major, and the ABC Masters was not even considered a PBA title, let alone a major. Oh, so my dad is one of the 7 original Triple Crown winners, along with Billy Hardwick, Norm Duke, Chris Barnes, Pete Weber. I know I'm missing somebody, Mike Albee. And that was the kind of shit that. Go ahead, Oach. What were you gonna say?
Well, what number was your dad on that list?
The third or second. It was Billy Hardwick, my dad, Pete Weber. Mike Albee was the 4th. Norm Duke was the 5th. I believe Chris Barnes was the 6th. Don Barrett just recently achieved the feat of completing the triangle. I think, and Jason Belmonte. Jesus, I'm sorry, I forgot about Belmonte.
He probably lapped it. I got a feeling he might have lapped it. Or
I think I know that Pete's won the Triple Crown twice.
No shit, that's fucking badass.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Belmo has or is close. But anyway, that was always a thing. So like my dad never bowled the ABC Masters. Not only was it not a PBA title, it was. Hang on, there's a bug on my computer.
Not only was it a title, but it wasn't even a sanctioned event. So he's going to lose.
Sorry, guys.
Okay.
I'm just saying this random bug just flew on the computer and it was disgusting.
Was I close?
What?
With what I said?
I didn't hear you. I was flicking this bug.
So you can't listen when you're flicking a bug?
Ask Rochelle. I can't multitask. When I'm on something, I'm on it. And if I'm off it, I'm on to the other thing. But now I'm back. The bug is dead, so just go back.
Your dad didn't bowl the ABC Masters because not only wasn't it a PBA Tour event, I figured he wasn't going to get like his sanction credits for bowling in the tournament or
no, just in general, he didn't like the format of the tournament. He didn't like the idea of qualifying and then bowling a 3-game series against one opponent on one pair of lanes. And he just decided not to bowl the event for all those years.
Well, hold on. We'll explain that. How different was it than a regular? What you're saying the format? Again for the amateurs. Not me.
I apologize.
No, you're good. You're good. So what was the format? What was so different about it?
The format of the ABC or USBC Masters has always been you bowl 15 qualifying games. You bowl 3 qualifying blocks of 5 games each, and then they cut to the top 63 bowlers plus the defending champion. And then based off of seeding and qualifying determines who you bowl in your first match. So if you're the tournament leader, you're bowling the guy that qualified 64th.
Oh, it's like the March Madness almost, really.
Right. So the reason my dad hated the tournament and has always hated the tournament is because what happens is it's double elimination once you get into match play. And match play is a 3-game aggregate total series. You against this other.
So it's just a league night against the guy.
A league night, total pins on one pair of lanes. And so, for instance, let's say Ocho led the tournament, averaging 235. You went 980 over. And Rob bowled 220 in the 15th game of qualifying to make last spot at 64th, which was +9. And Rob averaged 200, or he averaged 200.3 for the 15 games. Now, Rob's one big game in the tournament, which was 279, was on lanes 9 and 10. And that's the pair he's bowling you on. And that's the pair that you average 180 on for the 2 games you bowled. In 3 games on one pair of lanes, the elements really come into play.
Because the point is also these guys are that good. Every one of them who does make the seed, it's just that obviously there's no advantage for being the number 1 seed, and it's not a knock on the number 1 seed or the number 64 seed. These guys are that good, and the fact that if you go up against this, you've led the tournament, you're crushing it. You go up against the guy who had 2 pairs of lanes that he was good on, and if he gets them, he's going to smoke you. And that's just it. And there's really no. And you said it's double elimination, but now you're in the losers bracket, so.
Yeah, long story short, guys, dad likes the idea of the grind. He likes, total pins, give me 24 games of match play, 18 games qualifying. I don't like the crapshoot. So he just chose not to bowl the event. And when we're going back to talking about the Grand Slam being introduced and the retroactive major as the Players' Championship, it's like that's the one thing the PBA and USBC, I guess, decided at some point that, okay, we'll consider this an actual major in the PBA, fine.
But that's a tournament that legit anybody can win. Like, just any hot hand can win at some point. Like,
which is why the hot hands do win that tournament. Bowlers
because if you finish 64th, you make the cut, but then you go home. You don't make the step ladder. That's just it. So
to you guys and to all of our viewers, go back and watch any Masters, any bowling Masters. I guarantee you, every single one you turn on, there will be at least one bowler that you have never heard of on that show. That's the same way we all cheered when we had mentioned the NCAA, the basketball tournament that year. What was it? St. Mary's or
oh yeah.
What was the team that made it like super far? It was a Saints name or something along those lines.
They made it to the semifinals, right? And they got
whatever school. Like the reason that was so cool, yes, was it's a team you never heard of. That's what happens in the Masters in bowling.
But it's a little fluky in the NCAA tournament because the talent does rise to the top. Whereas these guys are that good.
Anybody can beat anybody on the court for an hour, and anybody could beat anybody in a 3-game total pin match.
Well, it's like when Happy Gilmore. That's like when Happy Gilmore
qualified. 5 guys from UNLV,
right?
like the 5 guys from UNLV in the early '90s, are not losing.
George Mason. That was the team I was thinking of. George Mason. Is that a basketball team?
Yeah, it's a college, so
it's a college, right?
But
yeah.
My point is, but here's the thing: like the number 1 seed could be Belmonte. Remember when UNLV had freaking Grandmama and like Stacey Augman and freaking Jesus, who else was on the team? I can't even remember. J.R. Ryder, I think, was on the team. And anyway, they went undefeated that year. 5 talented guys are not going to lose to 5 less talented guys. On the bowling alley, the difference between the 1 and the 64 seed, even in that tournament, isn't that much because these pros are legit pros. That's what it is. And that's why the format ain't going to work. But it's also why you get your dark horse every once in a while, because it's like the average difference is only 3 pins between number 1 and number 60 in the stats, not for the tournament, but like legit stats. So same as golf. Like if you do that in a format with golf, it ain't going to, number 64 could beat number 1 plenty of times. If you played 10 rounds of golf, maybe they wouldn't. That's just it.
That's Dad's argument. Anybody can beat anybody in a short stint.
Exactly. Always.
But
you could beat Tiger in 1 hole. You're not going to beat him in 2 rounds of golf.
Ouch. If I bowled you 30 consecutive games, who would win?
You'd win.
If I bowled you 3 consecutive games,
25-5.
If I bowled you 3 consecutive games, who would win?
You'd win, but maybe 2-1.
I don't know if that's true.
That's what I mean. It all depends. But I'd be competitive most likely.
Yes, way more competitive in the race to 3.
The further you get, the further you get. So
the cream of the crop rises to the top.
You shoot 680, I shoot 640. Oh man, Oach, you lost by 40. Not bad in a 3-game series.
Not bad at all.
680 to 640 after 6 now is a little more. 680 to 640 after 9. Now I'm like, I'm never getting back in this. Yeah. And that's
now you're 40. Now you're almost 400 behind.
Now you're never getting in it, and that's the point.
And that's you bowling fantastic.
Right. I'm out my ass.
That's you keeping your head on straight, saying exactly what I'm doing is the right thing to do right now. Well, when Pete Weber shoots 680 and you shoot 640, he knows in the next 5 games, well, I'm not going to shoot 680 again.
Right.
Now I'm going to shoot 800 with back-to-back 260s because now I know how to not shoot 680. You're like, fuck, I bowled 640. That's awesome. Let's pop off a 230.
That's all I got to do. Yeah, right. Stay around 220.
That's what I mean. So that's why Dad doesn't like the format of the Masters. He doesn't like it. Brett Wolf. Here's some bowling names for people that are not bowlers or bowlers. Brett Wolf, John Nolan, Jason Queen, Bobby Fleetwood, Brian Bogosian. Just to name 5 off the top of my head.
You could have said any name you wanted, by the way.
No, I know Brian Bogosian.
Well, you're from Connecticut, so you should.
Right.
But like most bowlers or most people that would tune into bowling say, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Who is this guy? That's what I mean. Like that's what happens in the Masters. Chris Sand, Mike Mullen, to name another two. Two fantastic bowlers, don't get me wrong. But it made the TV show at the Masters. Like, this is not normal. Patrick Allen, long before he was Patrick Allen, made the show at the Masters. So you get a lot of faces that you've never seen before in that tournament because it's not only you have to execute, but it's also luck of the draw. It's a crapshoot.
That's true. No, he's right about that. What about you, Johnny? You've been ramping up your bowling game lately. What have you done in the last couple of weeks?
I've been trying to accept the fact that I'm still a bowler at heart as much as I like to deny it. And since moving back here, what has happened is being out of the presence of the gambling and the alcohol every day and having more important things to focus on, I'm constantly in a bowling alley or surrounded by people that want to get me to a bowling alley. So for lack of, in my brain, I guess, not so much anymore, but of better things to do, I'm like, let me just start bowling.
Yeah.
So I've been practicing in the Russo and Bone family's facility at Rev Rates at Howell. I've been subbing in league in Toms River on Tuesdays, at Shore Lanes on Thursdays, and recently I bowled a tournament in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and I'm bowling another tournament in my home bowling center, Carolier Lanes, this coming Sunday. And I am so overwhelmed with not only seeing people I haven't seen at these tournaments, but the welcome I've received since coming home has given me this boost of confidence. So last night in league, I decided a few days ago I'm going to get back on the wagon and just stop drinking completely. And last night was the first night I've bowled stone sober in quite some time. I didn't smoke any weed. I didn't drink anything.
You said stone sober. I thought you meant stoned. But
no.
Okay. No. For our
wish.
audience at home,
I did take a rip to help myself fall asleep when I got home, but it was more of a reward rather than a mask of
well
living.
Deserved. What you said? You averaged 145, right? I think you said.
Yeah. Sure. No, I got there, and I was one thing that happened to me in Vegas was everybody's really subdued in Vegas. Everybody's chill. Nobody screams, nobody yells, nobody kicks shit. It's very chill. And
you had mentioned this where everybody's almost on autopilot. They're fake. They're too worried about what the impression they're going to leave is, and they leave their personality at home. They leave themselves at home, basically. And they
leave most of it. I'll put
I'm sure there's some, but
then I want to say they're almost overly respectful in Vegas compared to here.
Right.
Out here, people still try and get in your head. They still try and fuck with your ego. Meanwhile, anybody that lives on the West Coast will tell anybody from the East Coast, we're egotistical and they're logical. It may not make any sense, but if you lived on both sides of the country, you'd understand what I'm talking about. But so everybody else is bickering, bantering, screaming. They're bitching about the card game, the approach, the this, the that. And I'm just whoa, this is the easiest house shot I've ever bowled on. I'm stone sober. I have to figure out a way to generate the energy I get from the adrenaline rush of drinking. And I fell into a rhythm, and I bowled my first 300 in league in 2 years.
Wow.
On the first night that I decided to bowl stone sober.
That's awesome.
And this was all coming off of a truly awesome weekend in Scranton with my best friend Stephanie and her boyfriend Eric, and basically at least a third of my USBC Nationals team. And I went to bowl at this event, and
you
which
gave
was
us the cherry on the top first. Actually, folks. That was the cherry on the top because there's so much more. You have no idea.
Wait, what do you mean?
I still don't even know yet because now you're going to tell about all I know is you bowled in a tournament. That's all I know. But I know you were jazzed about it. So now
I drive
300 on league was the cherry on the top of your weekend.
The 300 on it sure was. The 300 in league last night gave me the comfort. Not only first off, when you haven't bowled 300 in a while and you bowl 300, you start bowling a lot of 300s, and I'm sure you guys understand that. It's like the monkeys off the back. It's Rob shaking his head. You will. You will.
I noticed I bowled a lot of 289s when I bowled my first one. I got about 20 of those.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is now that it's done, you don't worry about trying to get there, right?
Right.
So that was, and to do it sober for me was like, it was a huge ego boost going into this weekend's tournament, which is going to be insanely challenging. But what the hell was I going at here? I do that every show.
Your tournament.
The tournament. I
poke my nose.
I called Stephanie and Eric, and I spent 3 days with them in their home. Friends came over every night. We had good times by the fire. You know, we did stupid shit in the rain. We had wonderful meals, and then I get to the tournament, and on my left are like four of my favorite humans. I got Troy Lint, who finished second in the national championship on the senior tour this year, and my nationals teammate. I got Joe Hutchinson, one of the most decorated Vietnam soldiers ever, and also one of my dad's best friends. I got Sammy Ventura, like good stuff. Sammy Ventura, awesome champion on the senior tour and good friend for a long time. And who the hell was the fourth on that pair? Anyway, John Conroy, who I've bowled with on the regional circuit for my life. And I'm bowling with all of my friends. I got Anthony Nyer, the ginger assassin, to my right. I got Andy Nyer, his dad, who's a PBA champ. I got Jeff Morin, who's a PBA champ. Like, it was a nice field of 70 bowlers. Everybody was happy. I made it through the first round. I just missed the ladder. I wound up finishing, I believe, 7th. And I got to spend 3 awesome days in the Poconos with my friends bowling, and to have that many people behind me in a relatively rinky-dink tournament by professional standards, and to hear people cheering in the back, and to have kids coming up to me wanting my autograph because they can't believe I walked into their bowling alley, that was like, I remembered, I guess, the impact I have in this sport, and I'm just
and what it had on you actually too, because maybe
damn
that's
right,
also
damn right,
that got shuffled.
Damn right.
Do you think if there wasn't all those people there, you would have still bowled as well? I mean, like, would your intensity rise up? Because now it's not just league night. Now it's a tournament. Now it's like, I paid money to come here. I got to show my ass a bit, and I'm still the guy who I am.
I think what we've talked about on past shows when I talk about trying to perform to like cover Dad's name, I think that would have come out a little bit more had I not been surrounded by people I've bowled with my entire life. But I don't think it would have affected how I bowled. I think I would have bowled the same, but I think I would have been maybe a little bit more sluggish in the early going rather than comfortable you
got to find your groove first, and then you'll dial it in, because it's not like you're not good. You're still good, so you're still great. So it's just having the path to get there, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think I would have bowled about the same. I will say one thing, people always criticize like the one-hit wonders on the PBA tour, the guys that just come out of nowhere and make a show here and there. But until you actually watch a pro bowler bowl a local tournament, you don't realize how good they are. And I'm talking about Anthony Nyer. Anthony Nyer's made, one show? He's known for making the 710 on TV. His father, Andy, was a 3-time PBA champion, tour veteran, bowled for 20 years, won 4 times. Anthony Nyer beat the second place guy in qualifying by 100 pins.
Wow.
Using the same ball I was using in the same exact spot on the lane that I was. And he beat the second guy in the tournament by 100 pins in qualifying over 4 games. When you out average second place by 25 pins a game, I don't care what you want to say about the person. That's awesome. You have something. Like, it doesn't matter how much I practice. I'm not sure I could have done what he did. You know what I mean?
Here's an example. And I don't know how much I've given. I used to race dirt bikes, and I stopped about 5 years ago. And I wasn't racing competitively. I would go to the track, I'd race, I'd have fun. I wasn't like looking for my number or anything. But there was a guy named Brandon Hartranft, who's now he races 450 outdoor nationals, and he's good. Like, he'll finish 15th, 17th sometimes in the top 140 riders on the planet. Now these are, but at Raceway Park, this guy is lapping the field 10 or 15 times, and the other guys he's racing are local pros. These guys are awesome riders, and this guy is destroying everybody. So and I'm like, man, this 144, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Brandon Hartranft. This guy was a 250 rider, and then sure enough, you see him I'm like, oh my God, here's the guy on TV. And he's getting swallowed by these other guys who are just that much better. But it's funny. It's like AAA to major leagues or AA to AAA, which baseball, JP. So
oh yes,
and the just the difference where you're the best guy in your state and you are nobody in the country. It's funny how they don't just go up a little bit. Like these competitions go straight to the roof. Like you're saying, here's a guy who's made one show, yet he's lapping the field 10 times over with how many pins he scored, and it's wild. Like, and the unfortunate thing is they don't show that, and maybe that's also part of the problem too, because if they don't show it, nobody knows it.
Totally agree.
Which we've talked about anyway. Go start up with something else there, Rob. Go for it.
Well, real quick, in closing on my end, as far as
I didn't mean it like that. I meant like you guys take it over.
No, but like what I kind of we're nearing the end anyway. But also working with Dad, like Dad is really, really trying. He's only bowling 2 events a year for however many more years he can bowl, and I don't know if he's trying to win anymore, but I know that he wants to at least perform because he loves to perform. And like watching him in that training facility at Rev Rates every day and asking me for like help and tips and like understanding that it may take a little while to get used to a new ball and this and that, and like bringing 3 urethane balls and 1 resin, that's also sparked something in me. So like between the good bowling, the 300, 790 yesterday, bowling in a new bowling alley tomorrow with an entirely new batch of friends that I haven't seen in 10 years. That's given me the confidence to go bowl this really, really tough tournament this weekend at Carolier. And for me, just like weightlifting, bowling is like my other saving grace right now since being here. So I came home for a reason. I came home to get my ass straight. I came home to get myself ready to be a fucking responsible adult. And I feel like out here, the one thing that's saving me is being surrounded by the right kind of bowling and being a little bit more mature and capable of handling it. And I think it's going to take me places that I haven't seen in a while, which is in turn going to fix me and help me get my girl back. Y'all know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's Rochelle, in case anybody wasn't fucking sure who the fuck it was. It's Rochelle, and it'll always be Rochelle. So that's it. That's all I got.
So, is your dad bowling in the PBA Summer League? I know he's like captaining a team, but is he actually on the roster?
No, he's just the manager.
Okay,
so he
gotcha.
leaves. He leaves in a few days. They're actually there for 5 days. He was telling me the schedule yesterday, where I believe day 1 is an open practice for all the teams. Day 2 is media day. Day 3 is individual team practice, and day 4 is qualifying day. So day 5 is like the first day that there's actually a match.
Okay. Gotcha.
But I do know that this year there is incentive for the managers as well as the players, depending on how far you advance. In years past, you know what? We're unfettered. In years past, all the managers made the same amount of money, regardless of where they finished. And this year, there's a little bit more incentive if your teams do better. So I think
that's what we bring here, damn it.
That's right.
That's unfettered shit.
Yeah, fuck them.
Good
fuck
call on your part, man.
Yeah,
Good
that's
call.
it. Damn right. But so this year, I would, as a spectator, I would say that the fans will still be as rowdy. But I think as the rounds progress, you're going to see a little bit more focus out of the players that are actually in there, or at least the managers for that point.
I like that, and it's kind of what maybe not on the same scale, but what Major League Baseball did with whoever wins the All-Star game gets home field advantage during the World Series. That's a big deal, because otherwise It's just a bunch of pros out there, lollygagging, having fun.
But they let the fans vote on who gets to be in the All-Star game.
True, but nobody gives a shit who wins, right? Like, none of the players care who the fuck wins. They're just there.
If they're letting the fans, shouldn't they let the managers pick the All-Star team if it depends on who gets home field?
You would think that,
no, hey, here's a bunch of dummies. Go to 7-Eleven, fill out a goddamn form, and pick your All-Star team, and that team gets fucking home field advantage. The greatest, look, there's a lot of great sports, but baseball is our national pastime,
right? And
we watch it all the time. I don't care if you don't watch it. You still have it on in the background. Fuck you. You're lying if you don't. And they're going to have the fucking fans determine who gets – and they don't get it wrong too often.
No, they get it right. I was going to say they usually get it right.
Because it's usually pretty consensus anyway. But, it's just funny. Like, hey, guess what? You dictate who gets home field in the World Series. Hey, you know what? We're an interactive freaking podcast. I guess baseball is very fan interactive also.
Yeah, no, it really is. But – so I like the fact that they kind of mix it up and gave the players and the managers in this league some kind of incentive to win, because otherwise they're just out there having fun and nobody gives a fuck, and the fans like it, but it is what it is. So I like that. That's to me, it seems like the PBA is making changes in the right direction. Does that come with the new leadership that they've had over the last 6 to 8 months?
I definitely think whatever the PBA is doing, they're doing a great job. I attribute it to the amount of talent. As much as I complain and bitch about Randy and Rob Stone, I think that they engage at least a small percentage of non-bowlers into the show. The increased prize funds, and you have characters. You have nutty weirdos like Kyle Troop, who's also cool and winning $250,000 checks. You have Jason Belmonte, who's not only different and good looking and well spoken, but he's the best to ever walk the planet. There's different people. You have Chris Prather, who never says or does anything other than execute beautiful precision bowling shots.
Yeah.
You have so there's, I think the characters nowadays, because they're all so talented, is definitely bringing more traction in that respect. Man. Yeah, I think PBA is doing a good job. I don't know if it's leadership or if it's all those elements that I just said, but I think that the PBA is definitely looking up, at least in my eyes.
Do you think they're going to keep trending upwards? Like, do you see, I don't want to call it a boom, but do you think there's going to be at least an upswing in interest in the PBA or just bowling in general?
Unfortunately, I think they have to kind of play it a little bit hardcore. I think they need to make it public, like how much they despise what the governing body of bowling has done.
Yeah.
Like, if you create haters, you create fans. So sure. I think if they nudge it that way while also having all the good characters involved, yeah, I think it could boom. Especially nowadays, you got a lot more people working from home since COVID. Got a lot more people itching to look for things to do. Although predominantly bowling centers are catered to the recreational end of it, I think there is still an opportunity for growth at the pinnacle level. And I think that whatever is happening, they're doing it the right way, because they've failed in so many different ways. And the only way to try and get it back is to figure out a way to get sponsors so there's money that they can put even more into it.
Right.
But yeah, I think they're on the right track. Yeah.
What have you seen with the kids? Like, I know Parker and his kid, work with the youth and all that. Have you talked to them about what they're seeing, or like any trends that they've recognized that maybe bowling is on the uptick, like more kids bowling now or more involvement?
What I notice with the kids is the era of technology. There's enough technology in bowling, and as Oach calls it, nerdiness aspect. There's enough nerdiness aspect involved in the sport of bowling now that it's intriguing to nerds.
Right.
It's intriguing to everybody, to a point where they're curious about, well, why is the 35 by 5 45 going to react differently than the 35 by 5 by 45 with a 2000 grit finish on 37 milliliters of oil at a 2-to-1 ratio at 43 feet. They're curious why. Like there's enough, like they're curious about specto, they're curious about speed and launch angle and entry speed and all this other shit where there's enough, like I said,
NASA.
That's what I mean.
Right. Yeah.
But for a sport that you don't need a specific physical build to compete in, when you combine that with those elements, it's intriguing.
True.
You know?
That's true.
So,
and given the equipment, how great the equipment is now, I mean, kids are going to get better results now than they did, 20 years ago.
Definitely.
So that's good to know, and we all hope bowling does well, right? I mean, we've said this since the inception of the show. We want bowling to not only survive but thrive and get back to where it was back in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. And
I said why I'm cynical is to point out straight facts about what, because I'm the outcast here, obviously. I mean, I'm also the life coach, but this is the perspective you get, because anybody who is a true fan is going to love it anyway. And I'm saying, like, okay, I'd like to love it more, but why am I so good? And I say that borderline humbly because I know I'm not. And that's the point of it. And obviously, if I bowled a tournament, if I went to Carolier Sunday morning or whatever the hell it is, I'd get my freaking head stomped in. But I also hadn't thrown a bowling ball in 3 months, so I'm not practicing either. So,
yeah.
And that's my point. I'm not deserving of this average because I am definitely not putting in the work. When I played sports, when I played hockey, when I played baseball, man, it was a grind, and it was every day, and it was sprints in the morning and grounders after. I mean, thousands of freaking grounders I took.
Yep.
In the backyard, whipping them at each other, then at the ball field, man. Like it was still fun, but like it was routine, and it was like, this is how you get better. This is what you do. And I've never done that with this skill. And that's my take on it. And that's but I wanted to get to that pinnacle again. That's the only thing too. I'm not saying it as a dick. I'm saying it as like, here's why I think it isn't, or why I'm adjusting to this issue. And maybe there's a way to common ground it, to meet up and let's get it going again. Damn it.
The common ground is money.
Yeah.
And that's it, right. And sponsors.
Coach, I'm going to say this to you right now. You're what, 42 years old? 43?
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Around there?
Sorry.
Anyway.
48.
If I told you tomorrow, starting on January 1st of 2023, the PBA was going to have a tour of 23 cities with two-week breaks in the 23 cities, and every single tournament paid $1 million first place, the top 96 got a check every single week, and the last place got $24,000. Would you bowl more?
It'd be huge. Are you kidding? I would sign up for it. Are you kidding me?
That's all you gotta do.
And now again, you're exaggerating. Like, or I don't know if even you're exaggerating.
That's not exaggerating.
No, I mean, that's all you gotta do.
You're taking these. No, he's taking these numbers, and that's why they were rock stars in the 70s and 80s.
But even then, they weren't paying out. Even then, they weren't paying out as much as.
But but Rob, check this out, because I remember Senior had told me this. He said like it was 1970-ish, and I may have mentioned this at one other time. I
3
don't
to
like
1.
to. It was about a 3-to-1 ratio. Johnny Miller won about $290,000, and JP Senior led the tour at about $90,000.
81,000.
No, I think it was 89. I remember looking it up.
He did break the record for tour earnings for one season, and it was in the 80,000s.
And it was 1971 or 17.
Prize money,
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember which translates to about like $600,000. Which I'm not counting anybody's money. My point is, golf doesn't have that 3-to-1 ratio anymore. The winner gets about $1 million, and still it's 10-to-1, maybe something like that. 15
10-to-1 for the majors.
Yeah.
Right.
But they're like the Shell Houston Open still pays $1 million.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
The Cambridge Credit Classic pays $40,000, not $100,000.
Right. Exactly.
And the other thing is, aside from the 3-to-1 ratio, is the incentive money was always a little bit different. It was good in bowling. It got bad. Then it got great. Then it got like null. In
What's
golf,
instead of bowling, what does that mean? Does that mean like sponsorships or like
yeah, where the 3-to-1 ratio is only prize money.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Right.
so
Which is really all they ever dictate. And that's my point is because that's all we should know, and
Right.
that's what the legacy is. But yeah, no, for sure. That's why there's hats on everybody on golf now too. Remember there weren't hats.
I mean, that's why every bowling shirt looks like a NASCAR uniform because they got sponsors and ads all over their their gear.
They're Velcro, so they could just stick them on now too. They just put the Velcro gimmick on.
Yeah.
I mean, good for them, but it's like JP said, if they had that, then every hot bowler from every local area who could be the fastest motocross rider would jump out. And maybe the more money, the more people, the more prize money, the more prize. It's just,
and you would make more top stars. You would have more people competing at the highest level because
and
they have
the
more
extra sponsors because there's still more money coming in, and people are going to go, I got to get in on this. Oh,
correct.
I'm Home Depot. I got more money than anybody. Let's have the Home Depot open. And then, sure enough, it's not like it's a matter of doing it.
Right. I'm going to liken this. I'm going to liken this to my profession. I work in the freight trucking industry. We can't go out and get clients because we don't have a big enough warehouse, but we can't get a bigger warehouse
until you get clients
without getting the clients. So it's a catch-22, right? So
damn right.
How do you get that to happen, Johnny? How would you get to that
Rob,
kind of?
In your instance, there is a slow growth, but does bowling have that choice to have a slow growth? That's just it. I mean,
I would find every billionaire and millionaire and business and successful business entrepreneur that I knew
and stake it.
And I would ask them to stake it. Yeah. I would find somebody that liked bowling, like that also happens to be a billionaire businessman or like the top 1%, and say, look, and at least try and show them the advancements of the game, show them the history of the game. Somebody who's really into it. There's people that are into fucking psychics and stones and fucking chakras, for Christ's sake, and vortexes. There's people out there that are into bowling.
So just
Bud Moore is a prime example.
Right.
He hosts an event in his home. I would hunt for the big fish. I would hunt for the big fish.
I would take
kind of what happened, except for the liking bowling part in the OOs, like right around when those Microsoft folk bought it out. Like, weren't they supposed to be the money behind it or something?
They were.
I know they were, but like you said, also somebody who likes bowling that will actually invest and not.
Well, what happened? I think you have to try again. Well, they were continuing to lose money. They were in a horrible time slot. They were on ESPN.
All right. Oh, they had to pay money to be on there.
They had to pay every single show to just be on there. The ratings were not significantly high enough, and eventually, as any successful businessman or businesswoman would say, this product is there's no ROI. So like we're out.
Yeah. It's funny. It's and only one.
Or not
later,
out. We're gonna go find something else.
But only 1 year later, the Fertittas bought the UFC and like changed that into like this insane conglomerate. Man,
bought it for $2 million.
Yeah,
I think it was 1.8. I think it was. There was something like that, and it was on and they didn't. I mean, Fertittas had the money. Dana White didn't, but he was like, I think we got something with this. And they scrounged for about 2 or 3 years, and then when the Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture trilogy came out, or the Ultimate Fighter is what it was actually.
Right.
Then it just sparked. How about a bowling reality show?
I mean, you mentioned that before.
You've mentioned. I know. That's what sparked the UFC. But I mean, with YouTube, I don't know how even good that would be anyway, because there's so many. It's true reality on YouTube. But if they could hone it in, man, maybe that's the way to go. And I hate to say it, it would have to take it in a different direction to get it back to where it was. Maybe
take Simo, take Belmo, take Prather, take 6 guys, put them in a house.
No, I say take. Nope. I say take your
most
guys.
Flamboyant guys at any level. It's a reality show.
Oh, that's true.
You want personality.
My best friend Chris Williams. Flamboyant, 6'5", mohawk, screams at league, takes his shirt off at league, dances around all over the place, and everybody loves him because it's just the way he is.
I'm not 6'5".
I want 6 of those people. I want 6 different personalities on a reality show. People that actually go and grind and are in bowling alleys at the same time recreational bowlers walk in and say, "Oh, let's go bowling." Fuck you. Like fuck you. Yeah, like that is the kind of and then maybe you have 1 or 2 guys on the show that are aspiring to go on tour, and then you have Belmo cameo one week. And then everybody searches Belmo, and then everybody says, "Ooh, this guy's a millionaire from bowling."
No, what you
from
do
watching this Netflix documentary.
You take one of the senior guys and you have him be like their chaperone, and he's like the guy that
right.
I'm telling you, he molds them or something, and not to hone them in because you want the personalities, and the guys are obviously good, but they're missing something, and maybe there's something you get the guys that are missing this one thing. And that's what the pro or the senior guy is supposed to figure out, that's where
that's a great idea,
dude. You know what? Don't broadcast this. Someone's gonna steal this shit. We're getting onto this, man. I'm calling fucking TNT tomorrow.
It's not a matter of stealing. It's a matter of taking initial action on it first and pursuing it. If it's really a good idea, the first thing we do is we hunt somebody that can actually make it possible.
Rob,
and we already have one of the best fucking radio fucking DJs in the god. Is that even right? One of the best podcast presenters ever in Irad Rob Gaming. And don't forget to hit his like and subscribe button before you tune out this week.
Does he have Twitter still?
That's where we start. Is we start with let's see who we have contacts in the industry that could help us make a movie.
Yeah,
I wish Howard Hughes was still here. I'd ask him.
Write a treatment and film a trailer or a pilot, and there you go. I think,
right.
Dude, and you're right. I initially mentioned like top pros, but no, it needs to be the hungry guys, the unknown guys, because that's what the Ultimate Fighter is all about. And then just take 2 teams. Walter Ray heads up a team, and Belmo or Norm Duke head up another team. And
it'd be Duke or Barnes or one of the Parker.
I was thinking the same thing. We can't have Walter; he's too dull.
No, right.
What if you take Walter and just have him in Belmo and go talk to Elon Musk? He could fund the whole thing, right?
Hold on. That's
what I mean.
What if when you get Walter, what if like his personality does come through, like or they like maybe that fuck, dude. There's too much to be.
The guy's made 219 television appearances. There's no hidden personality, dude. What you've seen for the last 30 years, 40 years. That's what he is.
I know we're on right now, and I don't know if I just remember we were playing golf and you were saying something about like Michael Jordan, and he was like, "Yeah, I heard of the guy or something."
No.
It was Tiger or something. Maybe
he had said at that time. He said, "I don't watch sports." And later on in the round, my dad said to him, "So Walter, you mean to tell me like you don't know anything about like Wimbledon or like Super Bowls or anything?" He goes, "I mean, I know who Michael Jordan is." That was his answer. Dude,
Walter's got 2 degrees from Cal Poly. He's a nerd. He's a bowling nerd. And
yeah, I mean, imagine if he came up to you and said, "I can't believe you've never heard of like Maxwell Maxwell Chisholm." He's the best horseshoe. He's the best horseshoe tosser ever. Or he has like 19 world titles right behind Chewy Nardo.
Or the badminton champion. Do you remember him, Ocho?
But no. I was just gonna say. So when we first presented the bowling podcast, when Rob was on his other network, he was like, the guy was giving him grief, and I was like, dude, you should have been like, you mean you don't know like Frederick Dubois, the national badminton champion or something? And I pulled out a name out of I put it as my screen name. I pulled it as my screen name for like the next month. It was something like so absurd, and I'm going nuts. And I was like, how does he know who that guy is? I thought I was the only guy. Fuck.
Oh, that's good stuff. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up here. Interesting. We went a little bit longer, but I mean that's an interesting conversation. And look, Johnny, I mean, you have so many contacts. I mean, if you really think that was a legitimate deal, I'm sure you could put a bug in somebody's ear and get that ball rolling. I mean, can you imagine?
Call Jerome Bettis, man. That's who you got to call.
There you go. Can you imagine the growth of the sport if that ever took off? Like, that's huge.
If you have the capital and use it the right way, it could be perfect.
Well, somebody's got to put a slideshow together about what we think this is going to be, and this we're going to do a presentation, strategy board. We're going to have what we think, who the people are, and
make a PowerPoint presentation, Ouch.
Is he taking pictures of us right now?
I have no idea.
I'm sending it to Rochelle. I just texted her good night.
I thought you were facing you, though, right?
Oh, well. Tell her we say good night, too.
Well, she's going to listen to the show, especially now. So
we miss you, Rochelle.
You guys can say good night.
Yeah. Good night, Rochelle.
Good night.
Yes. Good night, Rochelle. We miss you. Anyway, sorry, I had to do that. I didn't want to forget to.
That's fair.
I'm being structured now. It's day 3. I'm making sure. It's.
Yeah, and it's good night, Rochelle. It's
6:18
7 o'clock your time.
Hey, listen, we
sleep well.
Our bedtime. Well, my bedtime out there was usually 8 because I would fall asleep on the couch. But usually we were lights out by 9:30, at least midweek. So.
Johnny, what's your Twitter handle?
I was too, by the way. Now that I think about it,
I mean,
and I don't fucking sleep.
No, you don't. Which
Dude,
is weird.
I was up. I was down by 9 and up at freaking 4 with these guys. I was like, man, let's have some coffee. All right,
Johnny, what's your Twitter handle, buddy?
At JPJR07.
Ocho, what's yours?
At JPJR07.
Wow, you got the same handle. That's weird. Do you guys share
Was
accounts?
I wrong?
It is that the. Yeah, a little bit. That I can't even say it now.
I am that Dr. Ocho.
You were that Dr. Ocho. It is at the Dr. Ocho. The Dr. Ocho. You can follow me at Rad Rob Gaming on Twitter and Instagram. You can also follow the show on Twitter. It is at Straight Up 5 POD. That's the number 5. Unlike our email address, which is the word 5. Which I gotta find, if someone's listening, that son of a bitch that stole Straight Up 5 with the number 5 at gmail.com, we gotta talk because we need we're like, who the fuck does that, right? Like,
we'll pay you the 20 cents to buy you out.
There you go. Of all the names in the world, who the fuck else would take a Straight Up 5? Like, is that like a porn thing? Like is it like gay sex or?
It's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it is. All right, I got nothing else. Guys.
No, that was a great way to end it.
No, I'm really. I don't know if I can keep that in.
Good night.
We don't want to get canceled.
By who? They got to listen
I
first.
will have a full report on my Sunday event at Carolier Lanes.
Okay.
Greg Tack's 8-game marathon. Total pins. So, if you're around, we start at 10 a.m. at Carolier Lanes in North Brunswick on Sunday the 3rd.
And
if not, I'll come over and come swimming and eat some of
that's what we got to do.
Quarantine Ladies hamburgers.
That's not code for anything, by the way.
No,
legit hamburgers.
She really does make good hamburgers.
Not code. It's not like
or you made the hamburgers and the buns were really good.
We don't have any secret shit going on here.
Hi, Jen. Her name is Jen, right, Oach?
I think so.
It's still Jen. Yeah,
it's still Jen. Hi, Jen.
She doesn't listen to the show.
Oh man, now I'm saying he spent all night with her.
You're really taking this out of proportion. You, little Oach. Oh shit, was that too much? Unfettered?
Oh my god, now what?
And Jen, I miss you all. Invite me over to come swimming.
We're going.
Okay, good.
Ocho, you're a betting man. You're a gambling man sometimes, right? You like action. Let's put a line on Johnny for this weekend.
Ooh, that's a good one because this is a pretty star-studded field.
And how many guys we got?
It's going to be probably around 96.
And what? It's just top 5 cashes or top 5 step ladder?
No, 1 in 4 gets paid. One in 4 get money.
You bowl 8 games and
total pins. That's it. 8-game marathon.
Ooh.
On dual patterns. So the left lane is 35 feet and the right lane's 45 feet. And they're really hard, like almost a U.S. Open 1 to 1 ratio.
Just to cash, right? We're talking.
Or do you want to put an over/under on total pins?
No,
or is that too hard?
I don't. Oh no, I say
do a cash because there's a lot of good players in this field, and I don't even know what to expect, and it's usually very hard. So just do a cash.
Plus
a cash
400 to cash. Which
all right, I like that.
Thing. I mean, out of 96 people, it really could be plus 9,000 if anything.
That's a good one. I
say plus 400 because I got him in the top 15.
All right,
I hate how little confidence you have in me, but I do like the bet. I mean, logically I like the bet, but inside I hate you.
I would take that bet. I still got to think.
It should be minus 200.
To cash. I got to risk 200 to win $100 on you cashing.
I'm gonna cash, bruh.
He's gonna be like, "Oh, I finished 94th."
Yeah, way to go, asshole.
And blame me.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, I used to handicap games. I know this shit. I say plus 400, and I would put $100 on it.
All right, sounds good.
There you go. You heard it here. Guys, we'll be back next week with a full report from Johnny. And who knows what Ocho's going to bring besides the big red wiffle bat. So we'll be back next week for another edition of Straight Up 5 with the man, JP Jr. next week. Take care. That's for you, Och. That's for you.
Wait, can you close it with the song?
Your life is spinning out of control. Seems the whole world is out to get you. Everything is wrong. Nothing seems right. There's a sinking feeling inside. Even your best friend has turned his back. But you can't let it down. No, you got to fight it. 'Cause you try, but you can't let go. It's when you're down that you gotta get up. Don't let them walk all over your face. Stand up for yourself and make everything right again. Even if some guy's trying to blackmail you and your girlfriend thinks you suck, it's up to you to let them know that it was all just part of some disguised evil plan. Look out ahead, there's a truck changing lanes. You got some yellow crumbs on your upper lip, and those warts on your dick aren't gonna go away unless you start using topical cream every day.
Thanks for listening to Straight Up 5. If you would like to send your questions into Johnny Jr., send us an email at straightup5@gmail.com. That's straight up FIVE@gmail.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Straight Up 5 right here on the Rad Rob Radio Network.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.